Get the harmonium here, and I will put the books there. And yeah, I will just use it like a shelf. And oh, thank you. Yes. Actually, I can turn it around. Okay. I will just use it like a shelf, to put the books here. Okay, so thank you, dear devotees, for coming here today. And of course, it's such a wonderful day, so suitable for increasing hearing and chanting. I mean, hearing about Lord and His guna rupa, so His activities and His form, and as well as about the activities of His pure devotees, and even, such ordinary mlechas like me get the opportunity to be engaged somehow in this process, and that's, a real example of that this process really works. So, of course, that's my first attempt, to be in this role. So yeah, please bless me somehow to be, like an instrument somehow in this wonderful transcendental process of hearing and chanting about the Lord and His devotees. Is the sound all right? Can you hear me nicely? Oh, okay. Okay, so first of all, Shri Vijay Gauranga Delnitai ki. Yeah. So first we will start, as traditionally, from reading from Transcendental Diary. So it starts from November 9th, 1976. Is the third paragraph in the book, in Russian book. So what we have? He spoke a little on some of the different kinds of beings within the universe, comparing them to the forms of life on this planet that many consider to be the most advanced, the material scientists. Scientists want to travel to other planets in search of life, but their efforts are futile. They fails, okay? But space travel, Prabhupada told us, is possible. Siddha means those who have got yogic mystic power, Ashta Siddhis. Anima, Lagima, Mahima, Prapti, Ishitva, Vasitva, these are called Siddhas. Nowadays, so-called yogis, they show some gymnastic. That is not Siddhi. Siddhi is different thing. One can become smaller than the smallest. That is called Anima. One can become bigger than the biggest, just like Hanumanji. He jumped over the sea. This is Mahima Siddhi. One can become as big as required, just like there is water. A grown-up man can cross water by jumping, but a small child cannot do. So, proportionally, if you increase your body by the Mahima Siddhi, you can jump over the sea. That is possible. So, these are called Siddhas. We have got description in the Srimad Bhagavatam about the Siddha Loka. There, the people can go from one planet to another in this body. This is called Siddhi. Here we are trying to go to other planet with the machine, and still we are failure. But in the Siddha Loka, they can go very easily from one planet to another with this body. They are Siddhas. Okay. So here we can see that Srila Prabhupada, he wanted to emphasize that that information which is described in Shastra, it's the reality, it's the actual reality, and that actually it describes how we can achieve or fulfill different kinds of desires which we have. So desires, they are basic, and they exist all the time. While people are here in material world, they have actually almost the same kind of desires. So, but if you anyway try to fulfill them, but if you don't have this transcendental knowledge, your tries, they are failed. So you cannot fulfill them. So Srila Prabhupada shows that there is a specific process for attaining these goals, so to say. So if a person wants to control material nature in some way, it can use some yogic processes. But anyway, he describes that modern scientists, they are so to say, stupid, because they have the same primitive desires, for instance, to see the other planets within this material universe, but they don't want to admit that there is a creator of these planets, yes, and that this creator has specific process for getting to these other planets. So this attitude, it makes these scientists to go to invent the bicycle, to invent the bicycle. So they want to find a new way to go there and to see how exciting the life is there. So, but they look like kids, If a kid wants something and he tries to find a way how to get the candy out of the shelf, So, but there is a process. It's described in Shastra that there are specific siddhas, and if a person will go through some special process, but still material process, he can get the fulfillment of these desires. But more than that, Shastra, exactly, Srimad Bhagavatam states that these desires, they are primitive, and these siddhas, they are primitive because there is something really more valuable, higher than these siddhas. But anyway, information is here, so those people who have strong intelligence and a big luck to be in touch with these scriptures, they can appreciate that, and they can find some level for their own. So that's because the Shastra is perfect, It can fulfill everybody's desires. So thank you for our beloved Srila Prabhupada that he gave us these Shastras, and even we are not suitable for studying them, but anyway, Lord Chaitanya made this process suitable even for us, even during this Kali Yuga. Maybe you want add some comments or some thoughts came to your minds while listening to that. When is prasadam? Ideas like that. Never ever today. All right. Actually, we can read next paragraph. It's quite big, but it's a little bit with another topic. But anyway, let's try. Stressing that life is to be found all over the universe, on every planet, Prabhupada briefly related an incident from Lord Chaitanya pastimes to show that even this vast material universe is insignificant compared to the whole of God's creation. The quote, in Brahma Samhita we understand Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadananda Koti Kotishu Ashesha Vasudhadi Vidbhuti Bhinam. It's from Brahma Samhita 540. Ashesha Vasudha Vibhuti Bhinam. Within the Brahma Jyoti there are innumerable Brahmandas, universes. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was requested by one of his devotees, my Lord, you have come here to deliver the fallen souls, so kindly take them with you. And if you think that they are sinful, they cannot go with me back to home, back to Godhead, so you kindly transfer all their sinful life to me. Do you know who was this devotee? The name of this devotee, who wanted to transfer all the things of the people from this universe and to suffer for these things, but other people to go back to Godhead with Lord Chaitanya. Yeah, one devotee, he wanted to suffer things. Он хотел страдать от грехов других людей. No. From Lord Chaitanya's pastime.
It's pastime from Lord Chaitanya?
Yes. You know? Yeah, you don't remember. Oh, Mataji. She was mentioning that. Aha, Mataji Kayani. Oh, she's so busy. Yes. Okay, so we will ask. А вы помните, как звали преданного в Чайтанья Чаритамрите, который хотел забрать грехи всех? Vasudevadatta. Okay. Vasudevadatta. All right, that's the devotee. So, and he's saying to the Lord, so you please kindly transfer all their sinful life to me. I shall suffer here, I mean this in material world, let them go with you. This is Vaishnava, para dukha dukhi. Vaishnava can accept all kinds of sufferings, provided others are benefited. This is the sample of Vaishnava. I mean, this is the example of Vaishnava. He is requesting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that, my Lord, you have come to deliver the fallen souls. In the material world, everyone is fallen. So, you take them. And if you think they are so sinful they cannot go, then transfer their sins to me. I shall continue to suffer many lives, but you take. It means take them. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased by this statement. So he replied also. He said, I mean Lord Chaitanya said, suppose the whole universe I take with me. Then what is the loss in this material world? There are millions of universes. He compared that in a bag of mustard, you know, горчица, in a bag of mustard, if I take out one mustard, then where is the loss there? So similarly, Krishna's creation, God's creation, is unlimited, that they do not understand. That they don't understand. So, here Srila Prabhupada's speaking about the example of Vaishnava behavior and about his extremely strong desire to for other people who don't understand the mercy of Lord. He wants to grab their sinful life and to let these people go back home to Godhead, because he's appreciating that so much. He understands that it's so valuable, it's so wonderful, it's the highest, actually the best benefit for all people. So he would like even to don't have it for himself, but to give it to other people. And here we see that Lord Chaitanya, he was really pleased with this mood, with this commitment. So this devotee, he was ready, you know, he was really ready to do this. But Lord Chaitanya, he shows that there is no big deal in only one material universe. You know, so we can understand the huge scale of this universe. Actually, we don't understand the scale, but it's really huge. And of course, the Lord shows us very nice examples. So if we have a big bag with small, tiny seeds, So if you just take one seed out of it, so the bag is still huge. So but from our perspective, we see that this universe, it's so big, it's so important, and especially me, I'm also so big, I'm so important. But if we see that this huge universe, which we can even realize, this material thing, it's so insignificant comparing to the whole material creation. But what to speak about transcendental creation, which is much bigger than this one. So Lord Chaitanya was showing this example that devotee's character is very pure, and the devotee can leave his own desire to get out of this material world, but to benefit the others. And that's actually the topic of the Leela with Bharata Maharaj, because there he also is trying to help another person, instead of his own interests. So we will discuss that later. Maybe some comments or thoughts? Okay, right. So now we are going back to to Srimad Bhagavatam. And today we are reading from the 5th canto, from the chapter 8 and the verse 17. It's not big Sanskritam, but first we have to chant mantras. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Okay, do you remember what is the name of the chapter? We are reading the verse number 17, so we should remember the name of the chapter. Okay? The character. But yeah, almost. Yeah. She's the most attentive student at the lectures. It's Maurice Prabhu. Yeah, the character of Maharaja Bharata. But actually in Russian translation it's a bit different, but yes, so the character of Maharaja Bharata. So now we are going to read the Sanskritam, and it's again plain, and I think we will read it. Actually, Mataji, I will need your help sometimes because I will refer some words, verses in Bhagavad Gita, so if you will find them in English, or you can read them in English, it would be very nice. It won't be a lot of them, but anyway. So, okay. Api kshemenasmin ashramo pavane shaspani charantam deva guptam drakshami. Api kshemenasmin ashramo pavane shaspani charantam deva gruptam drakshami. Okay. Api kshemenasmin ashramo pavane shaspani charantam deva guptam drakshami. We can read. You can try. I mean, maybe first Prabhu or Mataji Kani starts to read the whole verse. Somebody wants to read the verse. Saspani charantam deva guptam drakshami. Okay. Maurice Prabhu, maybe you can try. Apikshemenasmin ashrama bhavane. Saspani charantam deva guptam drakshami. Okay, Mataji. Okay, let's start again. Apikshemenasmin ashrama pavane shaspani. Charantam deva guptam drakshami.
Apikshemenasmin ashrama pavane shaspani.
Apikshemenasmin ashrama pavane shaspani.
Charantam deva guptam drakshami.
Charantam deva guptam drakshami.
Apikshemenasmin ashrama pavane shaspani.
Apikshemenasmin ashrama pavane shaspani.
Charantam deva guptam drakshami.
Charantam deva guptam drakshami. Mataji Lamita, would you like? Okay, let's read word by word translation. Api, it may be. Kshemena, with fearlessness, because of the absence of tigers and other animals. Asmin, in this. Ashama upavane, garden of the hermitage. Shaspani charantam, walking and eating the soft grasses. Devaguptam, being protected by the demigods. Drakshami, shall I see. The translation. Alas, is it possible that I shall again see this animal protected by the Lord and fearless of tigers and other animals? Shall I again see him wandering in the garden eating soft grass? Purport of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shil Prabhupada ki jai. Purport. Maharaja Bharata thought that the animal was disappointed in his protection and had left him for the protection of a demigod. Regardless, he ardently desired to see the animal again within his ashrama, eating the soft grass and not fearing tigers and other animals. Maharaja Bharata could think only of the deer and how the animal could be protected from all kinds of inauspicious things. From the materialistic point of view, such kind thoughts may be very laudable, but from the spiritual point of view, the king was actually falling from his exalted spiritual position and unnecessarily becoming attached to an animal. Thus, degrading himself, he would have to accept an animal body. Let's read the translation once again. Alas, is it possible that I shall again see this animal protected by the Lord and fearless of tigers and other animals? Shall I again see him wandering in the garden eating soft grass? Okay, so here in the purport, actually we can see that Maharaja Bharata is suffering right now. So the story started quite nicely. So because we can see a man who is living in a forest and he saves and poor animal who was suffering so much because of the destiny. And we have such a nice unity, you know, man and nature, and they are, you know, together, and this man is taking care of this wonderful animal, nice deer, and he was protecting it, I mean the deer. So it seems to be so nicely. But why then we can see in the purport that Srila Prabhupada is saying that this is falling from the position? So why do we think that it is bad? Because here Srila Prabhupada, and in the previous purports and in the further purports, he will state it for many times that that is bad. That wasn't a Krishna consciousness, or it was an obstacle for Krishna consciousness. So what does it mean? That Krishna consciousness, it means something bad? So why? Why? So, you know, because we have this material consciousness and we think about the bodies, that to protect and to maintain these bodies, that's good. And spiritual, it seems something really strange, because here we can understand, okay, my body, I should feed it, I should protect it, so that's good. And that what is apart from that is something strange and maybe even bad, because, you know, if you don't take food, it's bad for my body, yes? But now you see we have to fast. Is it good or is it bad? Of course, from material point of view, it's not very pleasant. It's better to have some huge cake and, I don't know, some lasagna, some pizza, or some gulab jamunas, okay? Yeah, that's good for your body, but I mean, that's the example of clear distinction. What is material point of view? What is material consciousness? And what is spiritual? So, we have a verse from the Bhagavad Gita 269. Number 2. Excuse me, 269. 269. From the second chapter, we have a verse there. Can you please read with Sanskrit?
What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-control. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective stage.
Yeah, so that's the point. That what it seems to be to ordinary people who are attached to these bodies and to this material happiness, so to say, in this material world, these things seems to be very nice. And Shastra shows that there is a big difference in that. So, and of course, all of us, we are situated here, and it's not so easy, you know, overnight to get rid of this consciousness. But that's why we need this, you know, daily remembering, daily attempts to understand this knowledge and to implement that. So, of course, it's very difficult when you know you have different schedule of life. For instance, you get up early in the morning, and some people, they are, you know, just coming out from the party, and it seems to be good because you had a good party, and it seems to be bad because you should better sleep at this time. Why are you waking up? Because it's so bad for your body. That's the material consciousness, but we have to take the knowledge from the Shastra and to understand that it's much better not to be in this material consciousness. Why? Why is it bad? Why is it bad to have material consciousness? Because the result is suffering. So because the result of being in material life, in material universe, it's constant suffering. It may be not so apparently, it's not so obvious, but anyway, everybody who is born here in the material world, it will be dead anyway. I mean, the body will die. The body will die anyway. What kind of life you will have, it doesn't matter. Will it be opulent, or you will be a real poor person living in the street? Anyway, you will die. I mean, the body will die. And along with that, you will become old, you will have some diseases. So you cannot avoid this. Anyway, how much money you have, it doesn't matter. But so these are the results of living here in material world. And actually, it's mentioned that living in any kind of planet within this material world is the same. Maybe the suffering are not so horrible, they may be subtle, but anyway, even demigods, they suffer because of the death, because they have huge sense gratifications. They can enjoy their nicely bodies, but still material, for many years. And can you imagine? It's so horrible when you have a nice vacation in super nice hotel, I don't know, somewhere in Turkey or somewhere, 5-star hotel, and you have a big bag of money and you're enjoying, you have lots of different foods and massages, spas and everything. And then somebody knocks on your door and says, that's it, just get out. You just, why? It's not enough. I just want still to have some enjoyment. It's horrible. Really, it's horrible. Or, for instance, some person, he's extremely rich and famous and everything, and then, I know, some sportsman or some football player, he's so famous, he has lots of money, and then he has some trauma, and that's it. His career is finished, he's forgotten. So nobody can get his position for eternity here in material world. So staying here, it's a real suffering. So Shastra is the mercy of Shastra and for devotees who are showing us this knowledge. They show that there is another way of life. There is the way of getting out of this constant suffering, of constant getting birth, old age, diseases, and repeated death and birth again. So we have to understand that it's a really different directions. We also have, looking at this situation, we see, well, actually, why was it so bad for Maharaj Bharata if he did such good things as protecting a poor animal? Why it is made him fall down? It's not a bad thing, really. He wasn't eating this deer, yeah. He wasn't drinking some alcohol there in the forest. Actually, he went to this forest to get rid out of all kinds of attachments. He didn't want to be distracted from his, because it was the last period of his life, so he wanted to dedicate it for spiritual development, so to say, or actually for serving the Lord. So why did it happen so badly? Why the result was so bad? So we can read from Bhagavad Gita again, from 18th chapter, the verse 38. And what it will says. Vishayendriya sammojadya yattad agre mittopanam pariname vishameva tatsukam rajasam smritam.
That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with the objects, and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion.
That's the point. That which we think it's very good at the beginning, like nectar, so nice, so pleasant to our senses, at the end it turns out to be real poison, because it leads to much more sufferings. So Shastra, it's like, an adult who is showing, okay, it's like for kids. A child wants to play, doesn't want to go to school. But if the parents, they're good parents, they say, no, you have to stop playing and to go to school. Because in future, it will be much better for you. But the child may think, oh, it's so cruel. My parents, they're so cruel to me. They have, so, how to say, a stone-like heart. I was so happy. I was playing. It was so nice. But why are they getting me to this school? It's so horrible to be there. Because if the parents would like to be really nice to the child and they, oh, I don't want my child to be sad, so let's play for 1 year, for 2 years, for 10 years. Let my child play. And then, you know, after 20 years or so, the child doesn't have any kind of education. He cannot get any kind of job. He cannot earn money in legal way. So what will be the result? The result will be a much bigger suffering comparing to just going to school. That's the point. So the Shastra is the same. It seems for us that it's so nice to have these our attachments to from the material point of view. But Shastra shows the results in many years, or maybe even throughout many lifetimes. We can see the results. So that's why we have to be very serious about what we can understand from the books which were written by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, and all other acharyas, because he was in line of previous acharyas, so he didn't make it up. It was already, this knowledge was already existing, and actually it's eternal knowledge. So it describes that happiness that comes at the beginning as poison, but later it will come up as a nectar. So here we can see that Maharaja Bharata, at the beginning, he felt so nice with this deer. Shishi Vijay Goranga Doyal Nitai Ki Jai. Yes, because he was petting this deer. Yes, and he felt real happiness. Yes. But later, this happiness turns to be suffering. Okay. So actually, once in the previous lectures, Mataji Kayanish also mentioned that actually it was better to let this animal go to the forest and to join the other deers. Better to let this animal go and to join other animals like him. Because when Maharaj Bharata was keeping this animal with him, he was feeding this animal and he was protecting it. So this animal couldn't do it by itself. So this animal was, he couldn't find food by himself and he couldn't protect by himself. So, but if this animal lived with another animals like he was, it would be much better for him because he would live in the natural way, how it's supposed to be. So at the beginning, it would be painful for Maharaj Bharata to let this animal go. But at the end, it would be better for animal and better for Maharaj Bharata because he will remain his spiritual position and the animal will just, live his karma and just go on in his transmigration. Okay, so, and we see that Maharaj Bharata, he went to the forest specifically to get rid of some attachments and not to be distracted. But actually, we know the examples in Shastra that it's not required, it's not necessary. Do you know any examples of the kings who didn't go to the forest but still got the spiritual perfection? Any examples? Yudhishthira, okay, why? Oh, okay. Okay, he didn't take sannyas, yeah.
They went vanaprastha.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe some other examples? Also some other kings? Kings who were engaging all his senses into servicing God? Yes, Ambarisha Maharaj. Yes, Ambarisha Maharaj, he was, simple, so to say, king. He didn't go to the forest. He was living in the opulence, but still he developed pure love to God. So this example is, these together with Maharaj Yudhishthira, they are showing us that actually it is possible to develop love of God without going somewhere in secluded places. And but actually, what is a big, so to say, danger in living in the society? For instance, if we want to develop this spiritual, so to say, your spiritual, or attain your spiritual goal in life, or actually it's a goal of life of everybody, so we should do some actions in our life, and we should use the как сказать предостережение? Предостережение, как сказать? Warnings, yes. We should consider warnings which are given in the Shastras and from our acharyas. Do you have any idea what warnings could we get from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? What is very dangerous for our spiritual life? What is so dangerous? So what warnings from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu we can get? What is so?
Like another piece of nature, we should be humble.
Yeah, but it's like a recommendation, you know. It's positive. But what was the negative?
Yeah.
What we shouldn't do?
Unfavorable association.
Oh, okay.
So to be without sadhusanga.
That's it.
And
Do you remember the verse?
no.
Maybe Mataji Anuttara? That's from Chaitanya Charitamrita.
I don't remember the verse from Chaitanya
Asat Sangatyaga. Yeah. Actually, it's Chaitanya Charitanya Madhya 2287. Maybe you can manage to find it on your mobile phone. No? Or Chaitanya in the book. So that's the point. That's the point, because we will read now from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That was the direct words of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because it's the Lord Himself, and He was warning us that there is a big danger. So I think we should Madhya 2287. 2287. Yeah. You have? Okay. I think that's, yeah.
Attasangatyaga eva shravacharas tishangi eka sadhu krishna bhakta aram. Vaishnava should always avoid the association of ordinary people. Common people are very much materially attached, especially to women. Vaishnavas should also avoid the company of those who are not devotees of Lord Krishna.
Yeah, at the beginning it seems to be, what is so bad in association with women? That's so nice. What's the problem? Why is it so dangerous? Why, Lord, are we some kind of fanatics or what? Why shouldn't we come? Because you see, it's a very deep desire, very strong desire in our psychology that we want to fit in some group. Yes. Anyway, it's considered to be an austere to go out from some social group. So we want to be in the congregation. We want to have association. So it's our natural inclination. But as we remember from the verses from Bhagavad Gita, that if you want something at the beginning which seems to be a nectar, at the end it can be a poison. So we have to be very careful about what kind of association do we have. Of course, we heard it for many, many times, but again, so you see these examples, they are repeatedly stated in Shastra that because that's important and that influences us so much. So as we see, the association which Maharaja Bharata had in the forest, it was also bad. Because the deer, he wasn't a Vaishnava. Yes, because an animal is just an animal. It doesn't have an idea of God, of self-realization. He wants just, these four things: to eat, to sleep. Yes, we know them. It's just the level of animals. Just eating, sleeping. Yes, eating, sleeping, and other. So that's why, because Maharaja Bharata, he didn't have the association with devotees, but instead he had a strong a connection with non-devotee. With non-devotees. So even though the animal seems to be really harmless creature, so how can it harm? But the attachment is the harm, because he was overly attached to this animal. He was attached too much, too much, because we see that he had this need to love somebody, to take care of somebody, and so this animal, he was just like an instrument for expressing his desire to take care and to love somebody. So it would better, of course, if Maharaja Bharata had the congregation of devotees where he could express this desire to love and to take care of. So, of course, we should not imitate this, but to understand the principle that even if we want to mechanically, so to say, to get rid of any kind of distractions, still they are so deep in our heart. We have a lot of different samskaras because we spend so many thousands, millions, trillions lives here in material world. Our attachments and desire to get this sense gratification, it's so strong. It's just, ingrained, imprinted in our heart. So if we just let it a little bit go, then it will, it can spoil all our spiritual path. So we have to be very conscious about that. So we can analyze this and to make the conclusion. So the conclusion is that that Maya is so strong that we have to understand that we have to be very attentive and that we have to act in a proper way, not to have some compromises or not to compromise, because otherwise, life is so complicated. We have a lot of different situations. It's so difficult to understand how to act, but we have to understand the principle that we have to have the association with devotees. And who are devotees? Who can we call the devotee? Who can we call a devotee? What's your idea? Who can we call the devotee? Okay. Yeah. Actually, during the Harinamas, we saw a lot of drunk people, and they were also chanting the holy names of the Lord. Are they devotees?
Of course.
Yeah, of some level. Yeah, maybe the pre-beginners. Okay, but still, well, actually, in this regard, we can say that devotee it's a person who understood that God is the goal of his life. And he wants to make his life suitable to this goal. The qualities. Well, qualities may be there, but still the devotee may not have still these qualities. But if he has this goal, he understands that yes, Krishna God is the goal of my life. It's the most important thing, and others goals, they are not important. And he tries to live his life according to this goal. So first must be the goal, and then the other qualities, and they will come up. So that's why it's extremely important to find these rare souls who have this goal in their mind. They understand that it's very important to associate with devotees. And the devotees, they are very different people, and because the non-devotees, what's the biggest difference? They don't have this goal in their mind, but we can say that other people, if they don't have this, sort of so strange idea as God in their life, they have other goals and they are very understandable. It's just having money and why they need money, to have some sense gratification. And what is the highest sense gratification? Yeah, it's just having, you know, intimate relationship with women. But now, of course, it's a huge variety of these kinds, unfortunately. I mean, yeah, Kali Yuga is progressing, so, and people are trying to find some other ways of this sense gratification, but anyway, the result will be the same. They will remain their life in the material world, and they will, again, born and die again and again in this material world, and going down, down, and degrading. So, that's the distinction. So the results are very different from those people who have this goal and idea that God is the main thing in his or her life, and of people who don't have this goal. The result of life will be different. So we can see from there was a purport to the verse number 10 from the same chapter, and where Srila Prabhupada was saying that Maya is very strong, and in the name of philanthropy, altruism, and communism, people are feeling compassion for suffering humanity throughout the world. And he describes there that we can mix this understanding of material, of helping people in material regard, and with helping people in spiritual regard. So Srila Prabhupada states that the highest help, the real help, it's spiritual. It's to give the people this goal of life, this highest goal of life. Because even if they will not be able to get it immediately to this goal, anyway, they will have this idea and they will try and try and try. And if having this association with devotees who have already this goal, they will come up and they will develop their soul. They will develop themselves as the souls. So our responsibility is, if it happens so that we can have this knowledge, we should treat it very seriously and we should apply it into our life. Because you see, Maharaj Bharata, he also knew about the Shastric statements about that he has to worship the Lord. And he also knows the statements that the king should protect the animals and all the living entities. But because he didn't have the proper, hierarchy, he mixed it up. So the knowledge, the pure knowledge, but the application of it was wrong. So he mixed up. He decided that this dharma is higher than the spiritual dharma. And that leads, of course we can say that devotional service cannot be destroyed. Yeah, so he had the fruits of his practices, he's developing for loving relationships with God, but we can say that it was interrupted. It was interrupted for a long time. And it's horrible because, of course, he was a quite strong, extremely strong personality, so it took him not so much time to come back to his spiritual path. But what we can say about ordinary souls, who are not so strong, who are not so developed, so if we will have some kind of interaction or obstacles, we can just, again, fall down much lower than he did. So that's why Srila Prabhupada, when he saw that his disciples who were very enthusiastic and they were very dedicated to him, but anyway they had problems and they were falling down from this wonderful spiritual path, which sometimes can be very difficult and tricky because sometimes you don't know where is Maya, where is not Maya. So he advised strongly, heavily, and especially during the last years, that devotees should live together. Why? Because it's so nice to get some prasadam easily, or it's so nice to, to have some kirtan in the evening. Actually, yeah, because otherwise, anyway, we have to interact with people. And if they will not be devotees, who will be there? People who wants to stay in this material world. Of course, it doesn't mean that they show it, but these warnings of Lord Chaitanya, it's not, a light thing. Lord Chaitanya was quite strong in his statements, and actually, according to his example of his own life, he didn't even speak jokes even to his own wife. It was maybe once or twice when he said some jokes to his wife. So and the ladies, they couldn't even pay obeisances to him in front of him. So they should do that somewhere there. So he was, but at the same time he said, oh, Varnashram is not so important. But anyway, he took sannyas and he followed all the principles and regulations very strictly. Even he was the Lord himself. So we have to understand, why did he do it? Why was he so heavy? Because it's dangerous not to be heavy, not to be so strict. That's dangerous because we are weak. And we have a lot of attachments, and if we will not be strict, then we will just spoil. When you are cooking something, and if you put something, I don't know, salt, you must be very careful with salt, because it seems to be, salt, it's a big pot and 2 spoons more of the salt. Well, what's the harm? Just a little bit more salt. But at the end, you just can't eat it at all. So the whole pot is spoiled because you were not consciousness about this. So this idea that devotees should live together, we heard it for so many times, but I felt it in my experience, so to say, because I've never lived in the ashram, and I was and am still in some kind of material life, but the difference is huge. When you live in the temple and you have the maximum time which is dedicated to talking to devotees and hearing from them and having prasadam with them and trying to make some seva together, and even some conflicts and even some happiness, if it is happening together with devotees, it is the huge difference comparing to the same activities but with usual people who don't know about Krishna and actually about God. So Srila Prabhupada was saying about that he wants his disciples, devotees, actually to live together, because anyway they have to get to do something in their life to maintain their life. Anyway, if you don't live together with devotees in ashram, then you have to work. If you work, so it means you will not work, for 30 minutes a day. Yeah, you have to work quite many hours a day, and that means that you have to interact with other people, and there are so many other people, and you are only one person in this huge congregation who knows about God, and you seems to be strange all the time. Yes, because that's what is nice for people who are not devotees, it's bad for devotee. And what is good for devotee is bad for people who are not devotee. So, and all the time, it's so difficult to be different. We want to be always like, part of the group. But when you spend a lot of time with non-devotees, then naturally you become one of them again. Because they will influence their desires, subtly will influence your desires, and everything will be spoiled. So we have to be very careful. And so what I mean, all of us, all the devotees should move to the temples and to live there? Well, maybe it's a good idea, but of course it's, some utopia. It's impossible because not all people can render this ashram life. Many of them will have families and children, but it doesn't mean that we cannot live together. So we should think about it. Of course, it's not so easy, I have immediate solutions, so let's go, let's buy some land and live together. But this idea, if we don't want to spoil, if we appreciate what we have, we should do some real endeavors to get that. So thanks God, Krishna sent me a husband who is constantly thinking about how to make devotees live together. Of course, because of his own desire to live among the devotees. So, and really it changes the life. Because when you, for instance, you want to get a lot of money, but for what purpose? Because I want to buy Ferrari, I don't know, Porsche or something, Range Rover or something, or a big villa somewhere. Yeah, that's the one idea. But if you want to get a lot of money to build some wonderful farm, or to produce a lot of books, or to maintain thousands of cows for devotees to have milk, and himsa milk, and a lot of ghee, that's the other point. So Srila Prabhupada, he said that, I think you know this example, that he said, oh, some swamis, they have this advertisement when there are money and some opulences, and these sannyasis, they were showing like this, oh, I don't want this anymore. But Srila Prabhupada said, make the advertisement where, me and a lot of money, and I'm doing like this, more money to me, to Srila Prabhupada. More money to me, more, because he knew how to engage that. And the purpose was not, materialistic. It was for the real benefit, to spread this idea about love of God. So we have to be responsible in this regard, because if we are saying, prayers to Srila Prabhupada daily, then we should do daily something to support these statements, So we have to make our life according to the prayers which we chant. Thank you, devotees. Hopefully someday we will live in some nice farm, nice community, and maybe we will not have to communicate with other people. But I mean that we will be able to communicate with other people, but we will have what to give them, what to share with these people. And so the purpose is to influence those other people, but not be influenced by them. Because what we have, it's much better, thanks to our acharyas. It's actually not much, it's the highest knowledge, it is the highest happiness which is possible. So we have to share it. But first, before sharing, we have to have it by ourselves. So let's do it. Let's try daily to do something to get this. Okay, thank you for your tolerance. Maybe we can discuss something or some questions. Yes?
I don't know why I had today a question.
Okay.
So it means how to say question. I was thinking of this.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about gopis.
About gopis?
Gopis, I was thinking how they can't live without Krishna. Yes, and if they see Krishna, they leave their houses just crazy, and they put the skirts on their head and blouse or something, just so just mixing everything.
Yes, and even makeup. One eye was.
They're running, makeup, and they're running to Krishna. Yes. But Krishna just knew it. He said, why did you come? So
He's a tricky person,
I didn't call you, yes? And if it has something to do with the attachments.
Of course. Of course it's an attachment. It's a huge attachment, Actually, when I read about these stories, descriptions of gopis and their behavior, and I thought, what? It's so horrible. What kind of sect is this? They want me to let my family somewhere there and to run to some kind of person who will neglect me? What's the purpose? And these ladies, they consider to be the highest spiritual level of love. I was really shocked, and that's because of our material consciousness. Because we compare everything according to the needs of our senses and of our material body. And that's why actually those topics about gopis, that's why not discussed at the very beginning. Of course, Srila Prabhupada was distributing this Krishna book.
I'm sorry. I mean that they are leaving their families, yes? And they run
to Krishna.
To Krishna, really, yes?
Yes.
So, does it mean they somehow
Attached.
they break the attachment to the family?
Yeah, that was the idea, that attachment to the family, it's extremely strong. But of course, during Kali Yuga, even this attachment is decreasing, but that's very strong attachment to the newborns, you know, with the small babies. It's so strong. It's for lady, it's impossible, you know, to just let this baby lying down screaming and just walking around. It's just, you know, it's madness. But that was the point to show that attachment to God, even if He doesn't reciprocate to you, anyway, that's the bliss of it. It's even higher than happiness of taking care of your baby. That's the point, that this attachment to God is the highest. But at the beginning, it's so difficult to us to understand this. That's why it requires some time and following the process to get understanding of that. Mataji спрашивала, что... Okay, so the time is up, and I can translate you after this. So, if nothing more, sure, sure.
Because so obviously I shouldn't be saying anything, but because this temple was opened by women, not because I worked for the BBC for a long time. So and that's where we set these standards and things. So just if it's in the text, if it says association with women, which it says a lot, and we're obviously, you are sitting there,
Yeah.
so you're obviously a woman, right?
Yeah, women body.
Here, so we're all sort of associating, we're all together. So the standard has become, I mean, already when I was in Sweden, so that's already in the 90s, that we now sort of say, even if it's in the text it says association with women, we used to say association with the other sex. Just
I see.
simple, because we also have attachment to men, right? So it's the same. It's just always we talk about association to the other sex, with the other sex, like attachment to the other sex. Then it's inclusive. Then we don't preach against us, basically.
Well,
because otherwise you say we're bad and you shouldn't be listening to us.
Yeah, well, actually, the idea, that's why we need purpose. Because in that purpose to that verse, Lord Chaitanya was explaining what kind of association he meant. So there was exactly about having some intimate relationships. Yeah. So now we are doing something else. Yeah. So there is no harm in that. Yeah. And that's the one point. And the other one is, well, Srila Prabhupada, he was making phrases in some kind of way because, well, he's a Acharya. So, and at that time, they didn't have this idea of, sometimes we say to him or to her, to make this subtly about this kind of sexes. We are speaking about ladies or you're speaking about men, but actually, if we can read the purports of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, they are very heavy about ladies, specifically about ladies. So we should consider it. Of course, I'm not very happy that I can sit here and to read this Bhagavatam, and of course, I don't know if it's really nice or not, but anyway, because the congregation is not so huge, and anyway we live together, and anyway we have some kind of interaction, so better to have interaction within Bhagavatam, but then in some other way. So, but of course, I think that if we will have some, big lecture, I wouldn't be happy to preach to other people because, I'm so advanced devotee and I don't associate myself with this women body. It's not like that. So I think it's some kind of exception, but still, anyway, in Shastra it is stated that men's kind of body is, men's kind of birth is higher than women's. So I think it's out of mercy devotees let me do this. And of course, when ladies or Matajis, they are very advanced and they had, a huge experience, and they don't have this strong attachment and association themselves with the bodies, I think they can preach in a bigger scale, I think, because they are Vaishnavas. And every morning we hear the prayers of Mataji Yamuna. So she's a devotee, and I think there is no problem with that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just saying the standard.
The standard.
For preaching in ISKCON has become to say association with the other sex.
Well,
Even if in the purport it says association with women, because we are now more inclusive of all.
But what is the basis of this inclusion? Is this the influence?
No, it is a proper decision in ISKCON. It is.
I know, but you see, if the books, they are still not changed, and we can think about what kind of influence is it. Is it because this society around us influenced this, so we want to be inclusive with this society?
No, it's the fact that we showed that we can also do stuff. I mean, this temple is, it's here. We're all here.
Yes.
And this temple exists because women did it.
Yes, but it's a seva.
It wasn't men saying that women you should do it. It was men saying women couldn't do it and women doing it anyway. So at least here we should, be inclusive.
But I don't think that it means the inclusiveness.
I'm saying that we've all done this for years, and we've already done it when I was still living in Sweden. We already said associate. I mean, also gurus when they lectured, they said association with the other sex.
Okay, thank you, because.
With women.
Okay.
I'm saying this is a standard.
Okay, thank you. I have to research that.
This is
okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for correcting. I will try to the next time if it will happen.
Sorry, I'm
anyway.
so strong.
No, it's okay. It's really.
Here, because women did this, so at least here I can put my foot down.
Okay, thank you for your attention.
He's reading this book.
Yes, and not only this one.
Women.
Yes.
But it is not mothers and masters, that is different.
I know that book.
It shouldn't come in.
Okay. Yes. So we have to be conscious about this and be careful. Okay, thank you. We are out of time so much. Thank you, dear devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada Maharaj ki.